What if I told you that the very thing you've been searching for, that sense of completeness, that feeling of purpose, has been with you all along? You see, we spend our lives chasing shadows, convinced that something essential is missing. But here's the thing: nothing is actually missing. The emptiness you feel isn't absence, it's amnesia. You've simply forgotten who you truly are. Think about it. Beneath the layers of social conditioning, beneath the masks you wear and the roles you play, there exists an authentic self that needs no completion. Your journey isn't about finding something new, but about remembering something ancient, something that has always been there. This forgetting is perhaps the greatest trick ever played on human consciousness. From the moment we enter this world, we are taught to see ourselves as separate, as incomplete beings who must acquire, achieve, and become something more than we already are. We learn to identify with our names, our bodies, our possessions, our accomplishments. We believe these things constitute who we are. But do they really? Can something so changeable, so impermanent, truly be your essential nature? Have you ever wondered why, despite all your accomplishments, there remains a subtle sense that something fundamental is still missing? Why does each achievement, each acquisition, each relationship fail to fill that mysterious void? And why do those rare moments of complete presence, often found in nature, in love, or in creative expression, feel so authentic and complete? Let me tell you something. This persistent feeling of incompleteness stems from what I call the illusion of separation. It's the fundamental misunderstanding at the root of human suffering. You see, we've been conditioned to believe we are isolated entities, separate from the world around us, separate from each other, separate even from ourselves. We draw boundaries, build walls, create distinctions, all to reinforce this sense of separateness. And yet, despite our best efforts, something in us knows this isn't the whole truth. First, we must understand that this illusion of separation is deeply embedded in our social conditioning. From early childhood, we are taught to identify with certain aspects of our experience while rejecting others. We learn to say, "This is me, and that is not me. This is acceptable, and that is unacceptable. This belongs to me, and that belongs to someone else." Through this process of identification and rejection, we create a sense of self that is inherently fragmented, inherently incomplete. Think about it like waves in the ocean. Each wave appears as a distinct entity with a beginning and an end, with a unique form and movement. From the perspective of the wave, it might see itself as separate from the other waves, perhaps even in competition with them for space. It might identify with its particular height, or shape, or speed. But what is a wave, really? Is it not simply a temporary expression of the ocean itself? Does the wave exist apart from the water that forms it? Of course not. The wave is not separate from the ocean. It is the ocean, manifesting in a particular form for a brief moment in time. I once knew a man who spent decades of his life in pursuit of external validation. He collected achievements like trophies, built a successful career, acquired wealth and status, cultivated the perfect family image. By all conventional standards, he had succeeded brilliantly. And yet, when we spoke privately, he confessed a persistent emptiness that no achievement could fill. He had done everything society told him would bring fulfillment, and still he felt incomplete. Still he felt the hunger for something more. What was he missing? Nothing. He had simply forgotten who he was beneath all those accomplishments, beneath all those roles he played so convincingly. You see, the truth is paradoxical. You already are what you seek to become. Your true identity is not something to be found, but something to be remembered. It's not something you achieve or acquire, but something you recognize as having been there all along. Like the space in a room that was always present, but went unnoticed because you were focused on the furniture. This is why no amount of addition will ever create the sense of wholeness you seek. No new relationship, no promotion, no possession will ever fill that void. Because the void isn't really a void at all. It's a forgetting. It's amnesia. You are not incomplete. You are not broken. You are not missing anything essential. You are. Complete, whole, perfect in your essential nature. So I ask you, what might happen if, instead of seeking to add something new to yourself, you began the process of remembering who you already are? Now let us look more closely at this phenomenon of forgetting. There are 3 ways we forget who we truly are. 3 patterns that keep us trapped in the illusion of separation. 3 veils that obscure our vision of wholeness. Each operates in its own way, yet they work together to maintain the grand illusion that we are separate, incomplete beings. Number 1 is cultural conditioning. From the moment we arrive in this world, we are taught who and what we are supposed to be. We learn to identify with our names, our gender, our nationality, our religion, our family role. Society tells us that we are students, then workers, then parents, then retirees. We are taught that our value lies in what we produce, what we own, what we achieve. And we come to believe that these external markers constitute our identity. Like trees in a carefully manicured garden, we are shaped and pruned to fit within predetermined spaces. The wild, natural growth of our authentic being is constrained and directed along approved pathways. What might happen if you suddenly questioned whether your career really defines you? What if your political affiliation, your social status, your carefully curated online presence were all revealed as elaborate costumes rather than your essential nature? The disorientation would be profound, precisely because we have so thoroughly internalized these external definitions of self. We all participate in this conditioning, both as recipients and as perpetuators. We judge others and ourselves according to how well we fulfill our assigned roles. We measure success by cultural metrics of wealth, influence, appearance, and accomplishment. We have been conditioned so thoroughly that we police ourselves, constantly adjusting our behavior to maintain alignment with our culturally assigned identity. Yet beneath all these acquired identities flows the river of our true nature, constant and undivided. Number 2 is mental labeling. Language itself, the very tool that enables human civilization, simultaneously fragments our experience of reality. By naming things, we create the illusion of separate, independent objects. We draw boundaries where nature presents continuity. The tree becomes separate from the soil that nourishes it, the soil separate from the microorganisms that enrich it, the microorganisms separate from the air they breathe. Think of how we divide the color spectrum into discrete categories. We say this is red and this is orange, drawing a conceptual boundary between them. But where exactly does red end and orange begin? The spectrum is continuous, the boundaries arbitrary. Similarly, we draw boundaries around ourselves, saying this is me and that is not me, this is mine and that is not mine. What if you considered that these boundaries exist only in thought? What if the line between self and other is as arbitrary as the line between red and orange? Like the ocean that appears as many waves yet remains one body of water, reality is fundamentally undivided. Our mental labels create the appearance of separation where there is only seamless unity. The map is not the territory, The word is not the thing itself, and yet we mistake our labels, our concepts, our thoughts about reality for reality itself. We confuse the menu for the meal. We get lost in abstractions, forgetting the direct, immediate experience of being that precedes all labeling. Number 3 is emotional attachment. This is perhaps the most powerful and subtle pattern of forgetting, for it operates at the level of our deepest fears and desires. We become attached to certain experiences and averse to others. We crave pleasure and flee from pain. We pursue what we believe will make us happy and avoid what we believe will cause suffering. This push and pull, this endless dance of attraction and aversion, reinforces the sense of a separate self that must protect and enhance its position. Like a river that carves deeper channels the more it flows, our habitual emotional reactions create deep grooves in our consciousness. We become identified with our preferences, our likes and dislikes, our emotional reactions. We say, "I am an angry person," or "I am a fearful person," or "I am a loving person," mistaking temporary emotional states for our permanent identity. What if you realized that your emotions, like weather patterns, move through the sky of your awareness without altering the sky itself? What if neither your happiness nor your suffering defined you, but were simply passing experiences witnessed by something more fundamental in you? The implications would revolutionize your entire relationship with life. The tragedy and beauty of the human predicament lies in this. We perpetuate our own forgetting. We maintain our own prison. We forge the chains that bind us. We forge them, we maintain them, we tighten them with our unexamined beliefs about who we are. And yet, within this very predicament lies the key to our liberation. For what we have constructed, we can deconstruct. What we have forgotten, we can remember. These 3 patterns of forgetting, intertwined and mutually reinforcing, have profound consequences for how we experience ourselves and our world. They create suffering where there could be peace, conflict where there could be harmony, scarcity where there could be abundance. They keep us searching outside ourselves for what can only be found within. But what happens when we begin to see through them? What happens when we start to remember? What remains when all that is not you is stripped away? When the roles fall aside, when the thoughts subside, when the emotions settle like dust after a storm, what endures? This is the essential inquiry at the heart of remembering. Remembering who you are isn't about adding, but subtracting. It's not about acquiring new knowledge, new experiences, new identities. It's about removing the veils that obscure your ever-present nature. It's about peeling away the layers of illusion that have accumulated around your essential being. The process is less like construction and more like excavation, less like painting on a canvas and more like cleaning a window that has always been there, allowing the light that has always been shining to finally illuminate your awareness. There are 3 approaches to this remembering, 3 pathways that lead back to recognition of your true nature. Though they appear distinct, they ultimately converge on the same realization, like separate streams flowing into a single ocean of understanding. Number 1 is direct experience. This approach invites you to drop below the level of conceptual thought into immediate, unmediated awareness of the present moment. Not the present moment as an idea, but as a lived reality. When you fully inhabit your sensory experience without the filter of mental commentary, something remarkable happens. The boundary between observer and observed begins to dissolve. The artificial separation between you and your experience fades. Notice right now the sensation of your body making contact with whatever is supporting it. Feel the pressure, the texture, the temperature? Is there a boundary where your body ends and the chair or floor begins? Or is there simply sensation arising in awareness? Notice the sounds reaching your ears. Are they separate from the hearing of them? Or is there just this seamless experience of sound? When you drop into pure experiencing without the narrative overlay, the illusion of separation naturally dissolves. I recall walking alone on a beach at dawn, watching the sun emerge from the horizon. For a brief moment, I forgot to think about what I was seeing. The mental chatter fell silent, and suddenly there was no viewer separate from the view, no experiencer separate from the experience. There was simply this luminous unfolding of life, undivided and complete. In that moment of direct experience, I remembered what I had never truly forgotten. Number 2 is self-inquiry. This contemplative approach turns awareness back upon itself to investigate the nature of the one who experiences. Who or what is this I that claims ownership of experiences, thoughts, and feelings? What is the source of this sense of self? When you genuinely inquire into the nature of the observer, a fascinating discovery awaits. Try this. Ask yourself, who am I? Then notice what arises. Perhaps thoughts come. I am this body, this personality, this collection of memories and desires. Now inquire further. Who is aware of these thoughts? Who witnesses this body, this personality, these memories? Whatever you can observe cannot be the ultimate observer. Whatever you can perceive cannot be the perceiver itself. The mind finds this inquiry profoundly disorienting, which is precisely its value. What if you traced your sense of I back to its source? What if you followed the root of self-awareness to its origin? You might discover that what you call I is not a fixed entity, but a dynamic process of awareness. Not a separate self, but the field of consciousness in which all experience arises. Human beings have a remarkable resistance to simplicity. We prefer complex solutions to straightforward ones, elaborate philosophies to direct recognition. We would rather spend decades studying maps than simply look at the territory beneath our feet. The cosmic joke is that what we seek through such complexity has been staring us in the face all along, so obvious that we overlook it, so close that we cannot see it. Number 3 is surrender. This approach invites a profound letting go of our attachment to identity constructs and our need to control experience. It's an allowing of what is, a relaxation of the egoic grip on reality. Surrender is not resignation or passivity, but a courageous opening to the totality of life. Like a river that has been fighting against its natural course, damming itself up and creating turbulence. When we surrender, we simply allow ourselves to flow according to our deepest nature. We cease the exhausting effort of maintaining a separate identity and permit ourselves to return to the ocean of being from which we were never truly separate. This surrender happens in stages, in layers, as trust deepens. We might begin by surrendering our grip on minor preferences, then our attachment to being right, then our need for control, and ultimately our very sense of being a separate self. With each surrender, there is a corresponding expansion of awareness, a greater sense of spaciousness and freedom. I have witnessed profound transformation in those who embrace this path of remembering. There is a lightness that comes, an ease of being, a natural compassion that flows when we recognize our essential non-separation from all of life. The boundaries that once seemed so solid and significant reveal themselves as conceptual overlays rather than fundamental realities. What remains is not emptiness, but fullness, not isolation, but connection. not fragmentation, but wholeness. The freedom of remembering is unlike any other freedom. It's not freedom to do whatever you want, but freedom from the very notion of a separate you who wants. It's not an enhancement of the ego, but a transcendence of it. When you remember who you truly are, you discover that you were never actually in prison. The bars that seemed to confine you were made of thought, maintained by belief, powered by unexamined assumptions about the nature of reality and yourself. This remembering initiates a transformation so fundamental that nothing in your life remains untouched by it. Yet paradoxically, nothing external needs to change. You continue to play your roles in the world, perhaps even more effectively, but without mistaking the role for your identity. How might your life unfold from this recognition? But here's the thing about this whole journey of remembering who you are. The very act of seeking can perpetuate the illusion it aims to dissolve. When we seek enlightenment, awakening, or self-realization, we implicitly reinforce the notion that we lack something essential, that we are incomplete as we are. The seeker assumes separation from what is sought. The one who searches for wholeness affirms their fragmentation through the very search itself. This is the exquisite paradox at the heart of the spiritual journey. To seek is to miss what is already here. To strive is to overlook what is eternally present. The more earnestly you pursue your true nature, the more it seems to recede from view, like trying to chase your own shadow. Not because it's hidden or absent, but precisely because it is too present, too immediate, too all-encompassing to be grasped as an object of awareness. You see, the self you've been seeking is not just within you. It includes everything you perceive as other. The boundary between self and world exists only in thought, not in reality. When you look out at the trees, the sky, the faces of those around you, you are looking at aspects of yourself in the most profound sense. Not as a metaphor or poetic sentiment, but as the literal truth of your expanded identity. I once knew a woman who had spent decades on an intense, spiritual search. She had studied with masters, lived in ashrams, practiced various disciplines with admirable dedication. She accumulated impressive knowledge and experiences, yet felt no closer to what she sought than when she began. Then, one ordinary afternoon, while washing dishes in her kitchen, something shifted. There was a simple recognition that the one who had been searching was itself the fabrication. In that moment of surrender, of completely giving up the quest, she recognized what had been present all along. The seeker dissolved, and what remained was what had always been there, prior to all seeking, all effort, all concepts of attainment. She described it as coming home to a place she had never left. Think about it. What if the search itself is the final obstacle? What if your endless quest for improvement, growth, and evolution is actually the last and most subtle form of resistance to recognizing your already complete nature? This doesn't mean abandoning constructive action in the world or ceasing to develop your capacities, but it fundamentally shifts the ground from which such activity arises, from incompleteness seeking completion to fullness expressing itself. When this is truly recognized, not as a concept, but as lived reality, something extraordinary happens. Life continues as before, with all its challenges and complexities, but it unfolds against a background of fundamental okayness that nothing can disturb. The waves of experience still rise and fall, pleasant and unpleasant, but the ocean of your being remains unchanged. You no longer need life to be different in order to be at peace. We began by observing that nothing is missing. You have simply forgotten who you are. Now we can see more clearly what this means. The forgetting was never total, only partial. Even in your most confused state, something in you knew the truth. Even when most identified with limited concepts of self, something in you remained free, unbounded, complete. This knowing has been the silent backdrop of your entire life, the context within which all your experiences have unfolded. This is not about adding a new spiritual identity to your collection. It's about recognizing what precedes all identities. It's not about becoming something more or better in the future. It's about being what you already are, right now, prior to all becoming. The cultural conditioning that taught you to see yourself as separate and incomplete, the mental labeling that fragmented your experience of reality, the emotional attachments that created false boundaries, all these patterns of forgetting have obscured, but never destroyed, your true nature. They are like clouds that temporarily hide the sun. The sun doesn't struggle against the clouds. It continues to shine. Eventually, the clouds disperse, revealing what was always there. Your essential being is like that sun. No matter how thick the clouds of forgetting, no matter how convinced you've been of your separation and incompleteness, the radiant fullness of your true nature has never been compromised. Nothing real has ever been lost. Nothing essential has ever been missing. So now I ask you, what might be possible in your life if you lived from this recognition? How might you move through the world if you knew beyond all doubt that you lack nothing, that you are already whole, that your true identity encompasses everything you experience? You are not who you think you are. You are far more vast, more inclusive, more fundamentally okay than any concept can capture. Nothing is missing. Nothing has ever been missing. You just forgot who you are. And now perhaps you are beginning to remember.